and a very good morning.
Well, enjoy the speak.
Alright, so first of all, I would like to welcome all of you to INCEIF University, and then thank you for coming physically here, as well as those who are in the Zoom call. Alright, now so my name, as you can see, if it could not be more possibly obvious, I'm from INCEIF University. The name here, okay, alright. So today's session will be a sharing session, more like a sharing session, inshallah. Alright, so my name is Zaidi. Alright, so I would first, so the way that we are going to conduct the session is, first, I would like to give the session to the panelists. First, Prof. Zul, and then Mr. Rafi, our YB today, because it's very nice batik. And then last but not least, Mr. Amir. Alright, so each panelist will have about 10 to 15 minutes to highlight or to answer my, inshallah, difficult questions. Alright, and then after that, if you do have some time, we are going to open the floor to the questions from the audience as well. Okay, so first of all, I would like to welcome Professor Dr. 𝗜𝗡𝗜𝗙. By the way, Prof. Zul has been writing on this matter for about 10 years already. Okay? So being the cikgu among us, so he will explain what is the rule of 78, alright, and then maybe some best practices that we can see from around the world so that we can learn, inshallah, and then which method that is better, inshallah. Okay?
Can I use?
Yeah, please. The cikgu wants to use the laser pointer as well, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all, CFO and audience and fellow speakers. Can I have my slide, please? All right. I got slides here because teacher, right? I'm going to do some education a bit because the public heard about Rule 78 from year to year, but did not really understand what is Rule 78, how it affects you as a borrower or as a customer. If you ask around you, how Rule 78, everybody said that Rule 78 discriminates. So how it discriminate you? Nobody, not many can answer that. So I'm going to show you how it works from academic perspective as well as practice. Why not move? Alright. If you go to shops, groceries, Jaya, for example, Tesco, you buy something, you bring to the counter, I put the price there 1,000 as a cost. You pay the price, the selling price 1,300, means that Jaya or Tesco make 300 at the point at the till machine. Tap your card being charged 1,300. Their accounts record they make gross profit 300. But how banks make profit? How banks make profit? How banks create profit in their book or record profit in their book? If bank have financing 1,000 or loan 1,000 principal, the profit to 20,000. So the selling price, if Islamic finance, selling price 120,000, payment over 9 years. Bank are not charity. We have to be very clear. Bank will not forgive any loan. Bank, profit-making institution. So everyone you pay installment 1,000. How much profit for the bank? So the public don't think about this because public cry outside there in the social media. They say that bank is cruel, even worse than the cruelest people in the world, because they cannot pay the loan, and then they pay 20 years. After 20 years, they say that I'm paying 1 month 1,000, 20 years, supposed to 140,000, but my loan, my principal still there, so much there. So they don't understand how banks work. So how much every installment 1,000 it goes for profit for the bank. How much bank collect profit from you means that it will not affect your principal. Your principal still there. Bank make profit. how much of the 1,000 principal is the payment of principal. So we need to know that. So this is rule 78. One of the method to apportion the installment, 1,000 installment, how much goes to the bank, how much payment of your principal is rule 78. Rule 78 is a general name. If your loan for 9 years, the name still rule 78, but it is not 78. Okay? So rule 78 is the sum of digit month 1 until month 12, you got 78. That's why it's named rule 78. If your loan for 9 years, 1 until 108, total up 5886, that is your denominator. The nominator will start with the last month of your financing or your loan. Here, if 12 months, the last month will be 12, the 12 will be the bank profit for the first month. 12 over 78. And it reduced 11 over 78, 10 over 78 until the end of the loan. Clear, right? So this is how bank work. This is how they say that bank collect so much profit at the beginning. Yes, Rule 78 was developed back in pre-computer era, 1930s back then, but still applied until today in Malaysia. So this is how it works. 78 as the denominator. First month is the last month, 12, divide by 78. That is the interest or the profit for the bank for the first installment. Second installment, 11 over 78. Third installment, 10 over 78. It goes down like that. Alright? And the name, though the name is 78, if your loan 10 years, 20 years, it calculate over the last month, total up everything, so it thousands the denominator. Alright? So I have one example. Actually, this is my loan already fully paid. My Honda Jazz, the small Honda Jazz at the back of this building. So my interest is, I'm quite good in terms of my credit. So my interest is 2.63%. So quite low. But now it's around 4 or 5%. Okay? So this is how the distribution of profit. The bank collect profit so much at the beginning, it reduced because of the formula, right? 10, 11, 9. So it reduced until the end. The last installment, around 3 ringgit, the bank collect profit. The first installment, the bank collect 395 ringgit out of my installment 1,000 something. Okay, so that is how the pattern. And I play around. If the interest 4.5, if the interest 6%, it is the same pattern. So the bank take so much at the beginning and less at the end. This is how they said front loading. Let me show you different graph. Rule 78 is there. So they collect so much at the beginning, less at the end. Some people say that why not bank collect equally? Means the total profit divide the period, every month the same. This is the graph. Every month the same. In the world, only IOFI-based banks or country use that. A portion according to time, but according to contract. Not all contract. According to contract. They use straight line method. So I combine both. This is how it's happened. If you have straight line, like this, every month equal to 100. And if you have rule 78 reduced, so the profit at the end, front load to the front. The front load there. This is how they said it is front loading. Whether it is right or wrong, let's ask the bankers. Because people give perception, no clear research that stating that it is the front loading. It is just a claim. Because we have short conversation with bankers. Bankers said it is bank's business. Right, so they have their own argument as well. Alright, there are issues here. I think will be elaborated further by the other panel. How many times I got? How much?
It's about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. One of it is front-loaded interest allocation, means that bank collects so much at the beginning, less at the end. So people said, Islamic finance, is it fair? Bank collect so much. Why you said fair? If everybody stay with the financing, with the loan until the end of the period, no issue. Because it is just a method of distribution of profit every month until the end. Total profit, total interest will be the same under whatever method you use. If 20,000 profit, Rule 78, 20,000, straight line method 20,000, reducing balance 20,000, they are the same. But monthly it will be different. Why people question this? Some people cannot sabar, cannot tahan, you know. After they being promoted 3 years, they got extra salary, they want to change car. Or Hari Raya coming in, they want to get married before Hari Raya, they got personal loan.
Warning.
So the first loan not already finished, they overlap. When they overlap, they get new money, excess between the two loan, and then they go off. They think they are rich enough. No, they pay so much profit to the bank. The bank said, Alhamdulillah, Prof. Zul, thank you very much for your new marriage. No, sorry. But in Malaysia, that is among the situation. If you ask cooperative, credit cooperative, there are so many cases, personal loan overlapping. That's why they are shouting. For cars, look at the used car. The turnover is so high, right? There are new cars from day to day. Means that our public cancel their loan or get new loan to overlap with the old loan. So this issue is real for them. Secondly, penalize early loan payoff. This is how they penalize. If you cancel here, means that you are paying profit so much, the future profit. And then inconsistent with modern interest practices. This is among the claims in literature, but if you look at the literature, the new loan or the new interest practices, they call it effective interest method. Islamic finance, I don't know how and why. When you read, you try to find literature, there is no literature. It's effective interest method become effective profit method, just because of interest change to profit. The way we calculate is the same. Maybe they take shahadah during the interest to profit. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad, then it become profit, effective profit. But the calculation is the same. Regulatory and legal restriction in the US. In the US, there are many cases, court cases, and it is proven that means the judge decided that Rule 78 discriminate customer. I have a collection of cases, and what the US authority did was they said that loan above 60 months or 5 years cannot use Rule 78. Loan below 5 years or 60 months, they can use Rule 78. But the others, I have a slide on that, let me cover all. The other continent, the UK, Europe, Australia, Singapore, they go on fairness. Though some of the constitution, some of the continent did not mention Rule 78, they mentioned that need a transparent and fairness in this issue. And then unsuitable for long term, as the US decided, not suitable because so much profit collected at the beginning. Misalignment with ethical and fair practices, I already mentioned just now, and complexity and lack of transparency. And I did interview many years ago, some cooperative mentioned that the profit is very slim for financing. Then those who apply for early retirement, early completion of their contract, they will put extra penalty. 120 months in the formula means that the IBRA, the discount given will be lesser. Means bank collect so much. Not bank, sorry. That institution collect a bit upfront as discount. Alright, this is the new one. I just want to introduce the new one. If you look at accounting standard, MFRS 9 or IFRS 9, it is stated that you have to use effective interest method. So, effective interest method is new apportionment, new method to apportion profit. And Islamic finance, they change it. If you look, this is Bank Negara regulation. It mentioned here effective profit method, but there is no justification how interest become profit in this formula. The formula is the same, right? And when I calculate, I do the calculation, I find out that it is the same. Only slightly different at the beginning, but it is the same. The same graph means the same collection of profit. If you cancel Rule 78, I think the bankers will explain afterward, it will be the same. So this is the legal framework I already discussed earlier. So what is the difference of this profit allocation using the new method? The only thing, reducing balance, you can reduce your principal. Means that, let's say you retire tomorrow, you got your EPF 100,000, you have loan 500,000, then you negotiate with the bank, you pay your principal, then your principal from 500 become 400, the interest will be less. That is the only difference. All right, thank you very much, because the moderator already looked at me 3 times. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Zul, for that explanation on the Rule of 78 and the tactical concerns. All right. So I would like to continue our session with Mr. Rafi. All right. So would you like to first respond to what Prof. Zul was?
Assalamualaikum.
Need to also hold it.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a pleasant morning to everyone. Thank you, Prof, for the brilliant explanation on how Rule 78 works and how it differs from a fixed rate or reducing balance. I just want to go back to the history, why Rule 78 came in. Just picture yourself, this is 1930s, the Great Depression. Market has collapsed. They've been run on banks, and there was not enough liquidity in the market. So the only way to get people to borrow, there were need for funds, but there was not enough liquidity. So rates had to be brought down to incentivize people to borrow. So the rates actually went down. Interest rates were lower. So to bring the rates lower, the lenders basically came up with this Rule 78, meaning you pay upfront, or rather 12 of 78 up. So to give you an illustration, you came to someone in the 1930s and said, I want to borrow $1,000. And let's assume the rate was 7.8%. What is 7.8% over 1,000? How much is that? 7.8% per annum over 1,000 ringgit, $1,000. 78, right? 78 divided by 12 should be 6.5. But instead of charging 6.5 every month, the lender basically said you pay 12 in the first month, 11 in the second month, 10 in the third month, 9 on the fourth month, all the way to 1. So Rule of 78 is also known as sum of digits. So basically 12 plus 11 plus 10 all the way to 1 gives you the sum of 78. Kenapa dia buat tu? Because the rates are low. In order to justify giving the loan at a lower rate, the lender basically said, I want more of the profit upfront. Principal sama. The principal divided by 12 is 83.5. You pay 83.3. Every month you pay 83. But the first month you pay 83 plus 12. So you pay 95. Second month you pay 83 plus 11, 94. Third month 83 plus 10, 93. If you take a flat rate, you will pay 83 plus 6.5. So it will be 90, 90, 90, 90, 90. So the reason why Rule 78 was very popular is the lenders those days realized some people pay for the full year, some people pay, they don't want to continue, they want to pay early. Bila dia bayar early, the lender benefits more. I'll give you an example. Katalah Prof took Rule 78. So for 3 months he would have paid 12 plus 11 plus 10. Berapa? 12 plus 11 plus 10? 33. And then I took the flat rate. I would have paid 6.5, 6.5, 19.5. So when I prepay, both of us prepay at the same time, so I would get a rebate for the 78 minus 20. Whereas Prof will get rebate of 78 minus 33. So the point I'm making is the borrower, the lender would have benefited more from Prof because he has paid higher profit. I will get a higher rebate, he will get lesser rebate. But what happened, the lenders realized because the behavior is not the same. Some borrowers, they pay until maturity. Kalau setahun, dia sampai setahun. Some after 5 months, dia nak bayar balik. Because the profit varies, he makes more profit from Prof and less profit from me, the overall rates was brought down. So there is some sort of balancing. Some bayar cepat, profit kepada lender lebih. Yang bayar according to the term, profit kurang sikit atau kurang. So overall he can bring the profit for the entire product lower. This is what happened in the Great Depression. So if we move to the flat rate, which is the right thing to do, because we don't want someone to subsidize another, right? Bila kita pergi kepada fixed rate, meaning everyone pays 6.5 a month, because 7.8% over 1,000 is 78. 78 divided by 12 equal is 6.5. So you will pay 6.5 every month. So you bayar awal atau I bayar according to maturity. The lender doesn't benefit because it's no longer Rule 78. Harga keseluruhan or the pricing for the entire product will go up compared to today. Do you get that point? Rule 78 will allow the product pricing to be lower because some people end up paying more, others end up paying less. So total profit on the portfolio, is lower for you, so the consumer benefits. Just I'll give another example. Today you go to, Prof mentioned the grocer, you pay 1,300 ringgit. You pay cash, I pay credit card. Siapa untung? Barang sama, the same products. The Prof example is a great example. I pay credit card, Prof pay by cash. Siapa untung? Credit card untung. Because the barang sama je, 1,300. You pay cash, you don't get any reward. If I pay credit card, assuming I pay on time lah, masa credit card credit card statement comes, I pay within the 40 days, I get reward points, right? You pay cash, sepatutnya you minta kurang. Kenapa Prof pakai credit card, harga 1,300, same 1,300. I pay cash, why you charging me 1,300? Mr. Grocer, you ada 1% or 1.5% merchant discount rate dia panggil. Merchant will not get 1,300. Merchant will get 1,300 minus 1.5% or 1% depending on the volume lah. So sepatutnya for cash you should ask, I want discount. We don't ask, right? So because the merchant sees some bayar cash, some bayar by credit card, he's able to somehow manage the pricing. But if everyone goes on and say, look, I only want to use credit card, harga akan naik because the merchant now, dia punya profit is reducing by 1.5%. If my margin is 15%, everybody pakai credit card only, my margin drops by 1.5%, meaning is no longer 15%, is 13.5%. I akan automatically naik harga semua because you all pakai credit card. But because I think about 50%, 60% pakai cash, 40% pakai credit card, they boleh hold the pricing. So all I'm saying is Rule 78, at least MBSB, we no longer on Rule 78. All our products are on variable. Kita ada legacy. Dulu personal finance was under Rule 78. Itu pun kita tengah convert. Alhamdulillah, we no longer have Rule 78. But if the whole industry moves away from Rule 78, you will see pricing akan naik. Because the bank requires a certain margin. Bank punya margin 2% sahaja. Maksudnya kalau kita dapat 100 daripada you, right? 98 kita kena bagi kepada depositor. You have to bear in mind you also deposit on that side. You borrow from us, you also deposit with us. On the deposit side, you nak 4%. Mortgage, you want below 4%. Semua, 4% very high lah. Give me 3.8. Alhamdulillah kita bagi 3.8. On the deposit side, 4% so low. Bagilah lebih sikit, Islamic Bank. Kita bagi lebih. Bila kita bagi lebih, EPF lah, the investor pula kata, your return is so low. Because you are also the pensioner. Remember, you have 3 capacity. You duduk sini ni, you are also contributor to EPF, you not 6%. EPF comes to us and says, hey, Rafi, where's your 6%? Right? To give you 6%, we have to give them 10%. Right? So, to get 10%, we need to get at least 2% margin from you. But you are also wearing the deposit ahead. Deposit, you nak tinggi. EPF contribution, you nak tinggi. Mortgage, you nak rendah. We need some divine intervention. Right? So, just finishing, Rule 78 is good because it basically normalizes. You bayar awal ke, you bayar on time, is the same impact. Tapi keseluruhannya, overall, you will see the pricing for the product akan naik. That's the downside of it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rafi. Now I would like to convey on the title of Cikgu to Mr. Rafi as well. Because he explained, very especially when it comes to history, teachers like to, recap on history. Okay, so I would like to continue to Mr. Amir. All right. So I think when it comes to the removal, So we do have slides for you. Yeah, please. I mean, when it comes to the removal of Rule 78, so please discuss when it comes to the operational adjustment, and also, if possible, discuss on the customer engagement as well. Because as rightly mentioned by Prof. Zul, when it comes to the awareness of the customer, we still have some work to do, inshallah. Please, Mr. Amir, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Okay, I'm here to maybe share some of the operational and also consideration for removing or consideration to consider to look at Rule 78, whether it's feasible or not for the long term. So generally, when we talk about Rule 78, there's a lot of criticism that's been highlighted for so many years. And what we've seen is that many countries have also tried to adopt that other methods of financing, but Rule 78 is deemed as fairly oppressive in certain countries and deemed unfair. So the question that we really want to try to answer is that if you were to ask to convert everything to other than Rule 78, is it feasible? Is it something that's doable for the practitioners in terms of offering to the customers? As you can see, as mentioned by Prof just now, many countries has already outlawed the Rule 78, especially US, United Kingdom, Canada, European Union. Many countries have had this feeling that there must be a better way for the consumers when it comes to fairness and transparency, and therefore they have removed themselves from offering Rule 78 for their financial, especially for financing more than 60 months. Usually banks do not offer Rule 78 anymore. But what we are trying to see is that whether or not it's feasible when you talk about removing Rule 78 and shifting it into other types of financing methodologies such as fixed rate or even floating rate. And what I can say is that generally the idea is that personal financing usually wants to be fixed, but most of the banks has already moved to some form of floating rate as well. So that is a good development that we've seen in the market recently. And
Orang main tak dengar.
orang online. Okay, I have to be
Super close with the mic.
super close to the mic. Okay. So when you talk about consideration for Rule 78 moving into fixed rate and floating rate, there are some things that we really have to take a look at, especially when the behavior of both of these structures are slightly different. Rule 78, generally sum of digits, the way we've been calculated is very simple, usage of profit calculation. You just take the principal, you times the rate, and you times the number of years, and then you aggregate that out across the tenure of the financing. It's based on, the profit is based on initial principal. If you notice, Rule 78, what it means is that when it comes to the initial principal, let's say you are taking a financing of 200,000, the calculation of profit is based on 200,000, no matter how long the tenure that you've taken. So if it's a 10-year tenure of financing, that profit is calculated for the whole tenure without the consideration that the principal is being reduced over the period of the financing. Yeah, so the profit itself is calculated based on the initial principal. So that is one of the key consideration. Another way is that once you have calculated the profit, the allocation of the profit is based on the Rule 78 as mentioned by Prof. It will be allocated based on the higher proportion of the tenure, and it will slowly diminish over the period of time until the end of the tenure. Yeah, so technically, the profit is contracted throughout the whole tenure based on the initial principal. Potentially, it's more expensive, especially because of the slow principal reduction over a period of time. And this will have an impact when you want to do early settlement. Yeah. Whereas when you talk about fixed rate, where the calculation is based on reducing balance, it's calculated based on amortized profit calculation, just like how you calculate a home financing, similar calculation. Profit will be based on reducing scheduled principal balance. So you see the principal will be going down and the profit will correspond to that reduction in principal, okay? And the profit charge is based on the principal balance outstanding. So on every month, we will look at the principal outstanding and we'll calculate the profit based on that principal balance outstanding. Yeah, so the denominator for Rule 78 is not the principal balance, but it is actually the profit that's already been contracted. Whereas on the fixed rate, you calculate the profit based on the reduced principal balance. Yeah? And this can translate into bigger savings, especially if a customer wants to do some prepayment. Okay, so when it comes about if we are able to implement or adopt floating rate rather than and move away from Rule 78, the system, the industry, I think we are more than capable. You know, we already have fixed rate products and services which is able to absorb the change. But as mentioned by Encik Rafi earlier, it could lead to a higher overall cost of financing. I will show a little bit later on some calculation in terms of calculation. Legally, the question if we want to do shifting or conversion from the existing fixed rate into a reducing balance, there could be some re-ACAT requirements to be done if the balances are big enough. And Sharia consideration, I think the main reason is that if you want to ask for conversion, we have to take a look also at the public interest considerations. Okay. So should regulators impose such conversion, for example? Yeah? So first of all, we have to look at the intention. Why are we doing this? Is it okay for us to do it? Is there any, will it benefit the customer further if we change from a flat rate to a floating rate? And whether or not, number two, there's justice, you know, because customer, are they aware that they may have to pay a little bit more when do a conversion? So what happens is that when you are currently in a flat rate Rule 78 structure, your principal will still remain very high in the early years. And if you are asked to do a conversion, when they do the early settlement and the amount that you see, the principal balance outstanding will still be higher. Then you convert into a floating rate or a fixed rate, technically they are paying higher. So is it justifiable for them to convert from flat rate to a reducing balance floating rate? Yeah, so or they might just stay in the flat rate structures. Convenience, what is it expected from the customer to do new contracts or otherwise? So the decisioning, you must take a look in various structures that's available at the moment. Whether or not you need to do new ACAT, whether there's actual savings that you enjoy, whether or not it's simple and easy to understand, and whether there's benefits that customer can really enjoy from the conversion.
Okay, this is just to show, this is to illustrate what Rafi mentioned just now. When you take a look at a flat rate versus a fixed rate, when you talk about flat rate, the customer generally is paying, let's say, 6% as a flat rate. But that actually translates to an effective rate of 10.21. So cost of funding, cost of funds, the cost of the customers paying will be slightly more. But as far as the bank's concerned, we are earning the same. But the customers will be paying slightly more just to hit the same level of profitability of a flat rate. So generally, 6% of flat rate translates to about 10.21% fixed rate over a period of 10 years. And why is it important? Because when you talk about moving from Rule 78 to reducing balance, there will be some issues where when you do the conversion, they may be more expensive if you want to refinance the principal balance outstanding from Rule 78 because the balance is still very high. So when you do a conversion, it will show that there is some differences. For example, here I show Rule 78 and 120 months. The total profit that you will earn from this flat rate is 120,000. This is the profit amount that you will earn. But if let's say you want to do a conversion after 1 year of enjoying your personal financing under Rule 78, after 12 months, and then you do a conversion for the remaining months of 108 months, you actually end up paying a little bit more. 124,000 worth of profit. And if you are only going to refinance or convert at the end of the tenor, after paying for Rule 78 for 108 months, on the final 12 months, you want to do a conversion into a reducing balance, you still end up paying slightly a bit more, 120,000 and 210. So in both scenarios, if there is a requirement for us to convert from a Rule 78 into a reducing balance, then it may impact the customer adversely, when they might end up paying a little bit more. So the decision is whether or not you should just let those who have taken the Rule 78 structure until the end of the tenure, let them just continue paying, and only allow new applicants to apply for reducing balance. But to do a conversion consideration, it may actually impact the customers, unless, of course, the customer have the intention that they want to resettle somewhere along the line. So if you are already enjoying a Rule 78 structure at the moment for the first year, and you feel that you want to eventually one day do an early settlement, then it's still okay for you to convert into a reducing balance structure so that you can take advantage of the rebate and early settlement. Otherwise, you might as well stay if you don't plan to do an early settlement. So in there, I just want to conclude. Okay, for new personal financing, other methodologies can be adopted. So I'm saying that if you want to apply for new personal financing, it's okay. There are already many banks offering products and services based on floating rate and fixed rate, and no longer offering Rule 78. Number two, other banks already have started to offer alternatives to Rule 78, as I mentioned. So options are there. It's not something that we are stuck with. Moving away from Rule 78 reduces the barrier of settlement of debt. So it encourages, when you take other than Rule 78, you feel it's more worth it for you to do a settlement. So that is in line with the Makasih, which encourages you to reduce your debt. You do not want to continue to hold debt for the longest period of time. Number four, reducing balance is recognized to be beneficial, especially when you want to do early settlements. So this is something that a lot of the market now realize, that when they want to do a settlement, a reducing balance structure is something that will give them the absolute benefit as compared to Rule 78. And finally, just want to touch for conversion of a live account from Rule 78 to reducing balance, it might not be justified. In fact, it may be even more expensive for the customer to even do so or consider that. So it might as well, if you're already in a structure where it's taken Rule 78, you might as well follow through until the end of it, rather than refinance it into another structure. So that's it. Little bit of sharing from my side.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Mr. Amir, for sharing the practical sides of the adaptation. Alright, so I have about 78 more questions actually to the panelists, but due to the time, I would like to call for questions from the live audience first, because it is not this easy for us to gather these esteemed panelists here, especially Mr. Rafi. Ya, petang ni dia ada board punya meeting pula. So now we are lucky lah, kita sempat curi dia. Alright, so please, the lady in front first, and then ladies first, huh? Alright, so please keep your questions very tough, huh? You have to push on the button quite a while. Alright, okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dr. Mohd. I'm glad to receive this two esteemed panel.
Also, you know. Oh, okay.
I interested to recap the important point given by Mr. Rakian and Mr. Amir in regards to the importance to tackle the if you wanted to remove this Rule 78, we need to take into consideration whether we want to implement this on the existing borrower contract or the moving forward. Because it is very important point that it might cost more to the borrower. That's very important. You capture the. And the second thing I would like to ask on the interest or the profit rate that you mentioned, that if for Rule 78 it can be much lower as compared with the reducing balance, right? But if you look at the perspective of a long term, where the structure of interest by or profit by covers two aspects. One is the OPR from the bank Negara, another one is the base rate for the bank asset quality itself, right? If we look at the long term, by removing this Rule 78, isn't by having a finance structure in structuring a product's pricing would benefit the customer in the long term, where they could be able to better meet their credit, which at the end translated to the quality or quality asset for the bank itself. Isn't you guys think that they could also translate that into a better pricing in future?
Okay, sure.
One question. And then last question.
Last question, huh? Okay.
Rule 78 has been widely used for the purpose of hire purchase, right? And we know that by buying car, okay, it's valuable for the 1 year, second year, but the cost would deteriorate a lot. So from the bank perspective, by charging the interest upfront, it's actually safeguarding or pricing upfront, profit upfront, is safeguarding the interest of bank in case the loan turning good and etc. Because of the collateral is deteriorate with fast. But since we are currently in suggestion to go through Rule 78, from bank's perspective, how are you guys going to capture on this issue?
Good point. Good. Yeah.
So that affects bank.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Start me first, please. And then Rafi.
Okay. First of all, I would just like to highlight in terms of Rule 78, at the end of the day, it's not to say that we should remove it outright, because at the end of the day, we are all being buyer resellers. You as a consumer, you should be understanding what are the types of products that you be taking and how the calculation impacts you. And as the consumer, you should be aware that what is the bank's position when it comes to the product it offered to you, and whether or not how they are earning from you. I think the issue is that yes, we should consider that there are costs that the bank will have to incur, when the product is not available for the banks to use. At the end of the day, of course, we would like to allocate the floating rate and under methods, because the method takes into consideration the movement of the OPR. If you have it under fixed rate and set rate, the risk is somewhat also helped by the bank in terms of the pricing, because if the market moves, your profit will be stuck, and it will be stuck, and that will be detrimental effect to the banks in the procedure. Rather than, of course, we want to try to be as fair as possible to the customers, but at the end of the day, we also advocate that when the bank offers a product, customer must be aware of the impact. And so it's the thing, we buyer, we seller, but we of course want to always offer the better product for the customer, so that they can also benefit and continue to enjoy.
Yeah, man. I think you raised a very important point. If you look at financial suitability of the product, and you look at car financing, it should not be more than 5 years. Most countries have got a ceiling, 5 years of the maximum for car financing. Why are we doing 9 years here? So you know why? Because we have to stretch our ringgit further. Because we have this phenomenon where we want to keep our cost lower. In fact, if you want to create a lower income society where you can manage within the low income. Malaysia, I think, definitely needs to increase the minimum wages. Of course, you look at the countries, our wages are still lower compared to many other countries. And to facilitate this, we stretch home financing 30 years, 35 years. I mean, home financing, I think it should be 20 years. Your income should be high enough to be able to pay off the price of a loan. It's over 20 years, but we stretch to 35 years. So the point I'm making is, Rule 78 has some benefits. I'm not saying it's completely without benefit. That's why I gave the example of the era of Great Depression, why it played an important role. It helped to bring the cost lower. Today, you can get a 9-year car financing at 2.5%. It's available. Now, if you fix deposit 1 year, it's 8%. Just imagine a bank that's giving home car financing at 2.5% cannot find their book with 4%. See, it doesn't come from the shareholders. It comes from the depositors.
Okay.
You come in, put your paycheck, your deposit with us, and we pay for your 1 year 4%. Don't keep it then used to pay your car financing. We have to bear in mind there are two sides to the coin. Every financing, there's a deposit behind. Our deposit via 3.54%, how is car financing able to survive with 2.5% profit? But the base of 1.5% is coming from. So it can come two ways. One is you have basically a flat rate without reducing balance. So 2.5% you pay for 9 years, or the initial amount of 100,000. But the moment you go reducing balance, then the price will go up from 2.5% to more than 4%. Because reducing balance, meaning first year, outstanding 100,000, it was paid to you 100,000. And that financing is backed by deposit. Let's say the deposit is 4%. The bank has to charge you more than 4% again. It cannot be less than 4% because depositors are getting 4%. Next year, you bayar say 10%. Balance 90,000, kita reducing balance. Yang tu pun kena lebih daripada 4%. So every year, your installment will reduce because your principal is coming down, but the profit rate will no longer be 2.5%. It will be 4+%. Because it's not OPR. OPR is the central bank where we look at our cost of funds. And our depositors expect 10% return on 1 year. Kita kena charge lebih daripada 4% in order to justify doing this. Kalau tidak, might as well we don't provide the product. If we have to provide the product at 3%, then buyer deposit at 4%, 1% is coming from shareholders' equity. Because there's no profit in the product. So that's why it's important to understand the dynamics. We are paying the depositors 4%, we have to charge you more. And that's why the Rule 78 helps to balance this. But if you're moving away from Rule 78, which is what we're doing, the price for the product will definitely go up.
Yes. I think the brother before behind first, and then we'll go to no. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
So thank you very much for analysis around the good of services.
Your name first, brother?
Please, Brian.
Brian, okay. Fadal.
I want to confirm
The because I hear different methods of different other methods of health evaluation, but in my opinion, I believe rule of services is just a method of distribution of profit shared bodies found.
Yeah.
Which and the customer. So when we of the Islamic finance perspective, we try to marry with just any from the parents on part of the customer. And then I start thinking out a lot of issues which we got mentioned earlier. Looking at the one product services, the upfront loading of profits as a get the test account. It's a way you should be to grow the Islamic finance are looking at fairness percentage. And if you do the analysis, try to say a relationship between the rule of 70 and other method like strict line method and reducing balance. You see over the period of time the profit is just but your rule of 70 it slopes from the left hand side to the right hand side. Once you name that profit is up to the profit to from the beginning. And then going back to why rule of 70 was introduced. It was introduced just to address a particular problem, the problem of any sector. Now, any sector, in this case again, we're now still facing another problem, which is also the state LFP payment. How do we now continue to stay the rule of 70 to give as benefit on the side of the customer, which is approach is not. Again, from the practitioner's perspective, I'm happy to hear that banks are looking at and the deposit side and alongside on the financing side, and that would be the justification for using the rule of 70. It's still not clear. And then why are we trying to marry the financial and the deposit side just because we want to create if fairness or rule of 70. In very way example is if we stick to a strict line method, and then I'm really not able to understand why we are paying fixed rate and floating rate. The rate are there. Whether it's fixed, whether it's floating rate, they are there. The distribution method is what the discussion should be around. And because at the end of the day, if you have floating rate, if you have fixed rate, our effective profit rate that we know in the bank that it is most widely used, it is a form of rule of 78 with a floating impact. So, moving away from rule of 78, I'm still not able to understand why we will still be having challenges around it.
All right. Thank you, Brother Ibrahim. Admin Chairman, from Zulu, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Maybe I will give the other side of the comment.
Please.
Okay, maybe I think your question that you really want to address in that, if a lot of us feel that Rule 78 is problematic, why is they still reluctant to
Remove Rule 78. Why is it that still? Because we know that reducing values, we know how to track it. Okay, as you mentioned, Rule 78, generally, the main issue is just that Rule 78 is an allocation method of the profit. That is very clear for us. And the sub-immediate calculation is just to address how do we allocate the profit that we will calculate over a period of time, right? So one of the key things that we have to consider why we want to allocate a bigger portion of profit upfront at the start is because of the risk that also the bank faces when we are offering a product at a very low type of financing. We want to secure as much profit as possible from that low rate, as mentioned by Gerald just now. If it's just a reduced balance, the financing rate definitely will be high. So there's no issue, and that follows the reducing principal amount. But for a flat rate calculation, we want to address the offset between the risk of having a lower rate against the risks that we face, the same risk that we face. That's why we allocate a little bit more for the upfront calculation to adjust for the lower risk and lower pricing that we are offering to the customer. That's my understanding on why Rule 38 is still considered something is acceptable by certain bank. It's just that we acknowledge that when it comes to settlement, if you want to do early settlement, this does not favor the customer very well. But in terms of the banking perspective, it still addresses the risk versus the pricing issue that we need to fix when it comes to the risk that we take. That's my take.
And also, if the parties dealing with how that's in regard pricing, it's very much like that.
A quick one, Brother Ibrahim, so that we can move to other. Please.
Bank claims to have used this opportunity because of the risk they are correctly placing. And then I also believe that the bank spread itself from the beginning as element of it can be there if there is in it, apart from the OPR that is being issued by the central bank. So while we considering that risk today, when we have already imputed the risk from the pricing from the original price, we still have to try to offer a product which is lower pricing to the customer. When you talk about the normal reducing balance or fixed rate, we only cater at a higher rate to cater for those movements. But because it's flat, you can't move, so there's the risk that when the rate moves, we are stuck at a certain level of rates. We cannot earn any service. It's not a floating mechanism. So that's where we tend to allocate a little bit more profit at the earlier stages. Because of the nature that no matter what, no matter how much you allocate risk during the pricing stage, where the market moves, we are not able to compensate other than actually. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Professor, you want to add?
Okay, I'm looking from different angle. Just to respond to Mr. Amir quote earlier that the consumer need to be educated. Consumer need to understand the product that they are taking. So with the Rule 78 or the modern one, reducing balance, effective interest or effective profit, the consumer need to understand how their accounts being managed. When banks charge, if based rule on Rule 78 or the other one, it is the same. It is the same. The profit charge much at the beginning, less at the end. If you compare with straight line method, which is equal profit taken by bank every period until the end, so customer will be loaded or will be charged profit high throughout the first half of the loan. Means the second half will be reduced rapidly. Means it is front loaded. If they cancel their account, means that or they early pay or whatever reason the account stop, their loan still high, the car in the market price reduce rapidly. That's why you will see nowadays, if you sell your car, you have to top up, like you buy a new car. You buy Mercedes, BMW, the price reduce rapidly, your account still there because you are paying so much profit at the beginning. Let's say after 3 years, you want to buy a new car to replace the old car, you have to top up the market. This is you need to understand because of the different front loaded means bank taking the profit so much at the beginning. Every month your account will reduce only small amount, the principal small amount, and you want to cancel, get new contract, you have to pay for the price for the loan, that the difference between what the average method, what the Rule 70. Yes, okay.
All right. A couple of questions before we move on to the online ones. Yeah, Dr. No. Yes. Prof. The ladies dulu. Yeah.
And yes, okay, my first thing relates to your statement when I think that other countries, especially that in other countries, and for free from the rules and key because of the injustice that affordability issue. Now, you also say that if everybody, if all the banking sector and in our way of expect there was the move, we also propose an age that will increase the price, and especially the cost of funds. So, okay, we need to be fair, but at the same time, if we move this, it's with the cost of justice. So this 10% black, it's opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, now, but at the same time, you also argue that how do we affect this? Is to one of the ways that you people for now is to increase the minimum salary. You have to increase it so that we can be the affordability and power our community to pay. What is it needed? Because we did question how are those developed countries attending to these issues, raising pricing? What else do they do besides they can afford to increase the pay? But our countries, it's hard, huge deducted, we have huge debt. So what is it that would require that if all everybody would jump on the fan bandwagon and move away from that?
Thank you, Dr. No. Serafi.
I think there's still a big of confusion here. Why Rule 78 helps to bring the price lower is, let's look at the law of average. Let's say all of you took a 9-year car financing. All of you have been charged 3% under Rule 78, for example. And let's look at the distribution. This part, 50% of the portfolio paid according to time, 9 years. What's your effective rate? If you came in at 3% and you paid for full 9-year maturity, what is your effective?
Okay.
It's 3%, right? But let's say the other half also came at 3%, but all paid within 4.5 years. So exactly half of the tenor, you came in and said, I want to pay. So the effective rate here is higher, could be 6%. I haven't calculated the exact, but roughly. Here 3%, here 6%. And overall the portfolio is making 9%, right? So 9% divided by half, because here is 3%, here is 6%, is about 4.5%. If I get 4.5% from this portfolio, you're paying 3% and they are paying 6%. With that 4.5, we can keep 50 basis points and pay Prof 4% on his deposit. Let's assume Prof is a single depositor. He's a multi-billionaire.
Yeah,
he puts the entire deposit and he wants 4%. That 4% is how we come up with. You pay effective 6%, you pay 3%, divide by half, 4.5. So we keep 50 basis points and pay Prof 4%. So if we all now under what we call reducing balance and flat rate or variable rate, can I still charge in 3% when Prof is asking 4%? I'm just asking. Whatever.
No.
Can I?
Cikgu ask a question, please answer.
I haven't seen that answer. It's not clear. If Prof is asking 4%, how much do I have to charge you for your car finance?
Because for the use reducing balance, right?
For your maintenance on first year, how much should I charge you for the first year? You just took the car.
The operating is for the project.
Sorry?
The first year, for first year.
First year, what should be the price you pay if Prof is asking for deposit? 4%.
4%.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that means the price cannot be 2.5 or 3% anymore. It will be more than 4%. But it will reduce every year because the balance is reducing, which is fair enough for both sides. If you pay in 4 years or you pay in 9 years, it's fairer. But the enterprise will no longer be 2.5 or 3%.
Exactly.
It will be 4.5, 5%. Tak apa lah. Except that this part who have been paying full will not benefit from their miscalculation, because they entered at 3% and ending after 5 years they're paying more. That is helping to price you at 3%.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm trying to explain. Everyone will be fine, but the price will go up. Is it clear now?
So the interest thing,
Sorry?
but the I think what we decide to do now is or pay flat rates alongside anything.
We're not. We're still talking flat. Both are flat. The 4.5% is also flat.
It's going to be steady.
No, it won't. All I'm trying to say is, today, the Rule 78 helps to balance. You are getting the benefit, they are paying the price. You get the point? You keep the financing for 9 years, your rate is only 3%. They want to exit after 5 years or 4 years, they're actually effectively paying more. That helps to balance the portfolio. The portfolio as a whole is giving the bank 4.5%. So you are the beneficiary, they are not the beneficiary. But we take Rule 78 out, the whole distribution here must pay more than 4%. That's all I'm trying to say. The effective return could still be cheaper for all of you because it's a reducing balance. But it would not be 2.5%. That's what I'm trying to say. Because currently you benefit with 3% because you are maximizing the tenor in 9 years. And when we move from Rule 78, you have to pay more. Because everyone is now under the same distribution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rafi. So we will, Prof. Tulu, Prof. Or I think there's one brother at the back. Yeah. Your name, please, brother. A couple of questions from the physical before we move on to the online questions. Yeah, please, brother.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam warahmatullah.
Thanks very much. Comment and for sharing your thoughts. So was first the full question. One question is we said multiple times that we said we is touching for the northern spice for the most. And that if we take into account the inflation rate, what if the full contract we end up in saying result? Okay, that's the first question.
All right.
The second question is we say that the without 178, the price of the product will go up. The reason why, because the depositors would be asking more money instead of maybe the rationale behind the people who that will take oil for 175 is that instead of for the bank to have a portfolio which is complex, but it always goes the asset which is coming from the lending instead of lending any, it's better to focus more investment part and generate more money, and then that which allow would have the same, let's say, the price without Alzheimer's.
Thank you, brother.
Please.
Maybe we pick up one more question. Prof. Akram, yeah. Pepeto, yeah.
Thanks, Mohd. This one question, when you talk about Rule 78, yes, to a certain extent they get at by second, not the same as prudential. Do you foresee that in Malaysia, when it's after the moving inshallah, the asset of Islamic banking should be will surpass 50% at all point inshallah. Now, do you see any changes in terms of pricing? I know that we are, there's an example to the interest rate benchmarks that we are using there today. We all see that we can move away from the interest rate benchmark once, we have more than 50%, and the starting asset is done. And yes, will there be any impact through Rule 78? I know that it is unpv because you are not looking in isolation. You are talking about the entire ecosystem of the finance globally, not only in Malaysia. So,
Thank you, Prof. Yeah.
I think moving away from Rule 78, what is probably banks will go to variable rate. So the moment we go to variable rate, as the bank pointed out, it won't be beneficial to the customer because if OPR has been flat for 3 years, right, without any variation, then you'll find for reducing balance, you're effectively paying less. Year on year, your reducing balance means the profit over the amount will be less and lesser. So although it may appear 4.5% compared to 2.5% fixed, effective profit you pay could be lower. if the rate OPR hasn't gone up, let's say OPR goes down to 2.52, you will be paying less. Kalau OPR naik, you akan bayar lebih. So it could be more than your Rule 78 or less than Rule 38, depending on the movement. Then the next question is, can we move away from OPR? That's what you're saying, right? Can there be, like the other brother was saying, instead of linking to interest rates, can we keep to some investment action? For that to happen, we got to change the entire monetary system, meaning money creation can no longer be done by banks. Credit creation has to be done through government. There have been many models, the Swiss model, where they propose to move away from fractional reserve banking. That requires a complete shift in the way we do our monetary economics. So it is possible.
Possible at the current setup.
Yes, definitely not. Yeah, the monetary supply would not help.
Thank you, Sheriff. Jeremy, would like to add? Yeah, please.
Yeah, just to maybe address the question. I think the whole reason about INCEIF and why is it there like that is that, number one, you have to remember Rule 78 is just an allocation of profit. The method of allocation of profit, nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, it's how we banks record in our accounting books the allocation of profit from each batch based on the sum of digits. At the end of the day, the banks, no matter what, if you wait for the customer until the end of tenure, will still earn the same. Either through, as my example here at my show, if you are doing effective rate, you have to charge about 10% if you to be equivalent to about 6% level. Yeah, so at the end of the day, the bank earns the same. The installment amount is the same, the credit cost is the same, and the principal is the same. It's in that when it comes to the pricing, it have to be higher because of the way it calculated, the way the profit is being allocated in our books. The only difference, it only happens when there is late settlement. But when it comes to early settlement, then there is a difference because one is offloading on the profit upfront, and the other one is based on the inclusive balances. That's the major difference that we see. Yeah, I think we have to be aware that no matter what I'm doing, we're not saying that Rule 78 should not be. There are some users that, as you can see, some countries like the US, they still allow Rule 78 to be lesser than 5 years, 8 months. So there is, because for this type of financing, less than 6 months, the tendency is that the customer will not do early settlement. But if you are taking a longer financing, there is a tendency eventually they have bonus, they have extra money, then they can do early settlement. For that, they will see the Rule 78 to be a little bit more offensive in that sense. But otherwise, if you want to balance it out, there's still room for you to consider Rule 78 if it's a shorter term arrangement, because as long as the customer does not have intention to do exactly, and that's my point.
Thank you, Jeremy. We move on to this majestic looking beard, sir. Your beard is majestic, sir. Please. Before we move on to the Iman and then we move on to the online question, please, sir.
Thanks for the good.
Can you keep it closer? Yeah.
Budget combination is a we pay in a plane, do it in a way with all and edit what don't get you guys to do it. So we had a personal finance portfolio. Our auto portfolio, we're just starting now. So the auto finance will be going on very well. Personal finance, because what happened, even though it's Rule 78, I just want to put another twist. For the bank, we have to apply effective profit rate, which is FFRS side. So let me recap, it's a bit more confusing. Under Rule 78, we're supposed to charge, remember I gave the example, 1,000 ringgit times 7.8% per annum gives you 78 ringgit. First month, they're supposed to get 12. Second month, 11. Third month, 10. So these variations is sort of not allowed by MFRS 9. MFRS 9 wants you to have not flat, but more effective.
Yeah.
they basically say you have to include an effective rate. So walaupun we apply Rule 78 for contractual profit rate, for accounting treatment, we have to first estimate what is the effective maturity. Walaupun the product is 9 years, someone is taking a 9-year financing, we have to look at the performance of our portfolio to see what is the average life. So it could be 7 years. So kalau 7 years, then we then compute the effective rate for 7 years. And it could be 5%. So there's a table which will show, based on the effective maturity, what is the effective profit rate. It's just accounting, nothing to do with the contractual. Contractual, the customer must pay 12 and 11 and 10 and what we do. But for accounting treatment, we would use the table for IFRS 9 and we will say your profit is 5. Walaupun you bayar 12. We only take 5 in our books. But when you early settle, let's say after 5 years you early settle, then the difference between what we have recognized in our books using the effective profit rate versus what you have to pay contractually, that is a gain for us, adjustment. So the point I'm making is, the effective profit rate helps to moderate the variance. So Rule 78 would have an impact to the banks who are benefiting from it. We don't have that kind of a big portfolio. So we wanted to move away from this variation. We basically said, look, moving forward, all our personal financing will be on a variable rate. Kalau OPR naik, you have to pay more, which is fair. If OPR turun, you'll be paying less. So this way, it helps you to get a fairer treatment. And if you prepay early, there is no sort of penalty for prepay. It incentivizes you to prepay. So I think that's the reason why we have been moving away from Rule 78. In fact, we have gone back to our customers to convert their fixed rate to floating rate without reakat. Because we basically say we will absorb. Katalah you bayar 2,000 ringgit installment, we now change to, we voluntarily give them a rebate. Kalau OPR turun, kita akan bagi rebate. Kalau OPR naik, if it is more than what 2,000 installment you pay, kita akan cap at 2,000. Because we believe that OPR has been quite flat, is unlikely to move to say 5%. Hopefully inshallah. So we are taking a bit of risk, but the point I'm making is we have enough margin to allow us to take that variation risk. So we are converting our fixed rate book to floating rate. So hopefully by next year we will not have any more of this Rule 78 in our books. Inshallah.
Thank you, Jarafi. That's how you do soft marketing, by the way. Yeah. So please, last question for the audience. Dr. Iman, yeah.
So I can't take care of the impact for the session. So my question is on the Rule 78 is impact on some financial products when the government gets because that's interest part of the amortization in the rent statement, which commensurates with the ownership versus if rate influence has towards the church. So just the impact of that, can we still say that that's to define somehow as unfair? Let's impact the light of fairness.
Thank you, Dr. Iman. Chairman, please.
Yes. Yes, I think that is one of the main criticisms that most of the INCEIF. And we acknowledge that there should be some form of fairness. That's the Shaman discussion that regularly goes around. That one thing is that, of course, if the customer, as I mentioned earlier, if you will not actually plan to resettle, that will make a difference. But in the event that there is a requirement to the customer want to resettle, you will see there will be that difference, in that sense. So that's where I think, while as we said, we said that everyone should know what they're getting into. But when it comes to the Sharia consideration, you have to take into consideration: is there a better products available that can replace? We are okay to accept whatever is available at the moment, but as and when there's a available alternative, we should start to promote that way the better products that gives the customer better benefits. Yeah. So
we're not saying that it's currently it's not acceptable, but as and when the market start to understand the need to move to better products, then we really should start to promote those better products. Yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you, Chairman. Maybe one quick one from Cik Fadilizan to Abdul Rahman. Bank is funding mix and out of different basis unless annualized, then we are comparing apple to apple. Removing rule of 70 does not necessarily increase cost of financing unless the bank is inefficient. Comment? I think, yeah, this Sharafi or Professor?
Yeah. Rule 70 is just to apportion profit or interest from the payment made by customer. So, and if you realize from the discussion, bank as a whole in a business, and their business is kind of money lending, and the profit that they get, regardless of the method, they must meet certain minimum to pay their funders. Depositors. Means if they don't get that, whatever method you introduce, they will increase the price. That is for sure for the banks. So the cost will not increase if you use Rule 78, reducing balance, the profit agreed, you sign contract, that's it. That is the cost. So how it being distributed, the method will determine. It will affect individual account if you plan to early settle. If you don't plan to early settle, the amount of profit or interest will be the same for all type of methods.
Thank you, Professor. Maybe some quick one with your concluding remarks first. Would you like to conclude? Yeah. Maknanya your personal thing or your personal.
I think Sharia people should play bigger role here, because I think this issue not open up before. Sharia people looking at the products, the contracts from overall perspective. Now, since this issue arise, we need to discuss openly. We need to think about it. What is the implication to the public, individual, especially the young ones? The way their lifestyle, the way they behave is different. Because once they got promoted, they got extra money, they change car, certain important event happen in their life, they take new loan, they overlap the loan. They are the one who affected because they early settle their loan to get new loan, to get extra money for life. I'm not sure. The salary in Malaysia not much different for many years.
Yeah.
Right. So this affect the lifestyle, the way they behave. So I think Rule 78, there are some merit to remove it because of the argument by Persatuan Pengguna Islam. I think Penang, right? Yeah. They many years they voice out about this. There are some merit on that. But again, we need to think from the banks. If bank don't get that amount of money, they will do something else. They will do their business, increase their margin. But individually, there are some effect.
Thank you, Professor. Maybe Chairman first with your concluding remarks.
Okay, I think the most important part is that there is still lacking of awareness and from the consumer side when it comes to the financial products.
And what we've seen is that a lot of people sometimes in maybe times of desperation, they will just take whatever
Financial products even to that, Rule 78, reducing balance, for them is transparent as long as they get the money, but you only find out the financial impact later on when you want to do something else. Yeah, so it's very important for us that yes, we can offer all types of products, but at the end of the day, the bank as a commercial entity will still have to make the profits. It's very dependent on the consumers and to really understand when it's Rule 78, what's the impact that's going to have on them, and how are they going to utilize it when they get our financial products. That's my comment.
Thank you, Chairman. Jarafi?
Yeah. That's fine. I think ultimately it's a function of pricing between the deposit side and the financing side. So there are 5 different product features or payment profiles we can have. One is fixed rate under Rule 78. You have second fixed rate which is on a reducing balance. Then you have fixed rate, which is not reducing balance but straight line. Then you have floating rate, the variable rate without reducing balance, and you have variable rate with reducing balance. You can have 5 different payment profiles. Allocate is more basic. The pricing will be probably cheaper for Rule 78, and then you have next would be the variable rate will be cheaper, slightly more than Rule 78. Variable rate on a flat rate, on a flat amortization, have a reducing balance. Then you have variable rate on reducing balance, would be slightly higher. Then you have fixed rate, because fixed rate, the banks are taking the profit rate multiple rates. So flat rate will always be slightly more expensive than variable rate. Flat rate will only on a fixed amortization and a reducing balance. So setiap ni harga dia berbeza. The price will differ. It's up to the consumers to decide. I think our role is to explain. Ni kalau profile ni harga dia X, profile ni X plus, profile ni X plus plus. So if the customers are keen on variable rate, reducing balance, alhamdulillah, good. But harga dia akan slightly more than on a flat end. So we have to explain the pricing like cover. So ultimately the consumers will have to decide what is the right price for that.
Thank you, Mr. Rafi. So let's give a round of applause to the panelists today. Alhamdulillah. So I would like to thank the panelists for their valuable contributions, and I would also like to acknowledge the participation from the audience as well, both online and physical, inshallah. So over to you, Mr. Wan. Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Inshallah.